Saints have started to make some hires on their coaching staff. We know that Brandon Nugent is coming back to be the O-line coach, was here for quite a while. Keith Williams is staying as a wide receivers coach, and it was reported that Chase Hazlitt will be the tight ends coach by NFL Network. We haven't confirmed that one ourselves yet, but out there, good reporting on that. Anything stand out?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you want to be pessimistic, the first three hires we know about are a guy who just came from last year's staff, a guy who came from the previous staff under Sean Payton, and a guy who is the son of former Saints coach Jim Haslett. I mean, I know a lot of people want to see Kellen Moore get to make all his hires and break all ties from the past, and the first three hires we hear about have some ties to the past. But so I want to acknowledge that, but I'm not overly concerned by it. I don't think we're going to see that with the coordinator hires, although Phil Galliano should be a strong candidate to remain a special teams coordinator. In each instance, you see why. He worked with Chase Hazlitt in Dallas. He knows him. He probably wanted to hire him even if he got a job in a different city. He worked with Nugent in LA. He probably wanted to hire him even if he got a job in another city. And I would hope that any coach who had the opportunity to hire Keith Williams, right, would want to, because I think we were really impressed and pretty shocked that he had never gotten his opportunity as a wide receivers coach. I think the players really respected him. Wide receivers around the league really respect him. So individually, every one of the hires makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some crossover. Like he went to a place where there was some Saints influence with the Chargers. In Dallas, the league's only so big. Like there's always going to be people that are kind of tied in a little bit. So yeah, none of this to me is like holding on to the past. Like the offensive line coach that left and came back, and yeah, I mean, that doesn't bother me. And then Keith Williams, obviously, I think is somebody that it was just smart to keep him. You got a young receiver room. The young receivers like him. They like working with him. He has the right type of personality to kind of work with that group. Incredibly highly respected around the NFL. He's somebody that I had circled as like, I hope they're able to keep him. And I thought they might have had a chance because he wasn't part of that little Kubiak contingent.
Right.
Like he was hired outside of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think him staying makes a lot of sense. So we'll see what the other hires end up being. I think we're still probably expecting Nussmeier to get a good look at OC, and Staley to get a good look at DC, and Phil to get a good look at special teams coach.
Would that be a win?
Which one?
If that's the trio, that's the betting favorites for the three jobs. Look, he's 3 weeks behind every other team in hiring coordinators. But frankly, those could have been his three coordinators if he got the job on January 10th. So
I'd like him to keep
solid.
his guy. I'd like him to keep his guy. If Nussmeier's his guy and he's part of your success and you've brought him everywhere, I'd like him to keep his guy in some capacity on that one. Phil's an obvious win, like really good special teams coach. They've had great special teams. They had great special teams after Rizzi moved up and Phil took over, and they had the block field goal that probably wasn't a good thing for the Saints overall in hindsight. Like it would have been better to lose that game, but it was a great play and great scouting, and he figured it out. So yeah, I think letting Phil go would be a mistake personally. But we'll see what they do with that. Staley, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the idea of him. I mean, he's been in the right places. He's been exposed to the right things. What do you do, a year with the Rams, and then he got
had the number one defense in the NFL.
They had really good
coaching job off
They had
of it.
really good players.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
He's a to be determined for me, but I like someone with the pedigree. I just don't know if you want to look at it through a negative lens, you can find things that are like, well, I don't know. You need to prove this to me. Like, was this smoke and mirrors? I think the things that submarined him with the Chargers don't carry over to the DC job, like clock management, game management. Like those wouldn't be in his purview. I like the idea of a former head coach being on the staff. Like, it kind of helps you with your blind spots. And I think there's lessons to be learned from failure, really good lessons to be learned from failure. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to like vouch for him because I think there's some unseen things that like, it's okay. Like, let's see what he could actually do.
No, who are the other candidates we know about that? I think Jeremy Fowler reported that George Edwards might be one, a long-time
Vikings.
experienced defensive coordinator. I don't have strong opinions either way, but he'd be experienced. And then is it Durante Jones that they
The Vikings pass game defensive pass game
he's
coordinator.
been working for Flores. He's been interviewing all around the league. He's got some LSU ties and some local ties. So it's not a done deal. There's going to be a long, thorough process there. But yeah, I don't know how many guys he missed out on by being the last one hired, but probably not a ton. Probably not a ton. I know there was the report that both him and the Cowboys would be interested in the guy, the Arizona run game coordinator that the Cowboys ended up hiring as their offensive coordinator. Maybe that's a guy he wanted on his staff. But as we've said, I kind of feel like Nussmeier was always the front runner to be the OC. So we'll see if it plays out.
And it kind of feels like Staley would have been one of the top 1-2 guys on that side. I don't really think, and I've been studying this. I don't really think there's not a tangible disadvantage of being the very last team to hire a coach. Like there just isn't. Like historically, they're just factually
kind of the opposite, right? Did you show me the list?
Factually is not.
Like,
yeah,
it's almost like the best hire of every cycle has been the last one hired.
Yeah, I mean, like factually, like, and look, there's been some disasters late in the process. Dennis Allen was late in the process, and that didn't work out.
David Coley was the last one hired his year.
But like factually, since over time, like it's just like the idea of like, oh my God, they aren't going to have a good coaching staff because they're too late, like to the party. That's just factually not a thing that's true. But I think in general, if you have a good head coach, if you're hiring a good head coach, like those things are going to kind of all work out on their own anyhow.
Was Kevin O'Connell coming off the Super Bowl? I know Shanahan was coming off a Super Bowl. Was Kevin O'Connell also coming off a Super Bowl? Did he get hired right after the Rams won the Super Bowl?
I'll tell you when O'Connell.
I think he did.
That was 22.
Yeah, they won the Super Bowl, and then he became the Vikings coach on February 16th, which hasn't even happened yet. Yeah. That worked out okay.
Yeah.
But you're cherry picking. I mean, he may or may not work out. It's a tough situation here, no doubt about it.
Sirianni was a pretty late hire. Yeah. Sean Payton was a late hire. He was in February.
He had to get rejected a couple other places before he said yes.